Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. How's everyone going? Okay, I am actually going to jump straight into it tonight. I'm really excited about what I'm going to be sharing tonight because what I love talking about and teaching the most is about tweaking, little tweaks that we can do to the way that we live and the way that we eat that make us healthier people for tomorrow. So I'm going to actually get straight into it. So the things I'm going to be sharing tonight are not, they're not budget breakers. It's not talking about going out and, cleaning everything out of your fridge and going raw vegan tomorrow. Definitely not going to be anything like that. What I'm going to be sharing about is just the little tiny changes that we can make, things that we can change tomorrow that lead to being healthier people down the track for us, for our kids. I really believe that the best way to make changes to our diet to be healthier people is to do it in just little tiny steps. That's the most sustainable way to do it. It's the way I've done it with our family. Just slowly over the years, we've changed the way that we've done things. And I think the best way to do it is to take something and change it until it feels like the norm. And then you take the next thing and you change it until it becomes so normal that you don't think twice about it. And then you take the next thing and you change it. And it's just, that's a really easy way to start implementing new things, changing things for your kids so that they can get used to it without it being, the cleaning out the fridge going, okay, guys, we're going raw vegan. That way it's something that we can start to just incorporate, all the time to be working towards better health in little ways and turning it into something sustainable. So if you're jumping on, feel free to say hi. I'd really love it if you stay on till the end because I'm going to be sharing 3 things. I didn't know which order to put them in because they're all really important, but the one I've got down as number 3 is actually really important. I'd love for you to stay on till the end to see it. So what I want to go through is a few of the little things that we can change, 3 things that you can change tomorrow. They're not going to break your budget. They're not going to change your lifestyle drastically. They're just little tweaks to the way that we eat, the way we feed our kids, the way that we cook. It's actually mostly focused around cooking, the way that we cook and how we can change 3 things. So one of the reasons that I really want to start sharing more about how we can change things in these tiny little ways is because I have learned and watched how over the last decades, how much our health has changed, the way that we eat has changed, our rates of chronic and degenerative illnesses are growing, our obesity rate is growing, type 2 diabetes in kids is now like common, and all of this stuff is happening because we're not eating the way that we should be or the way that we used to eat, even going back 50 years ago. We eat so differently now. And kind of almost like we've got the food pyramid turned upside down. And a lot of the foods that we eat mostly, which are foods like wheat and dairy and sugar, are not actually bad foods. They're actually highly nutritious foods. It's just that the way we eat them in a modern, technology kind of mutated way is not actually good for us. And we're not eating enough of the foods, like the foods that grow out of the ground are the ones that our body needs to be able to be really strong and really healthy and fight off all those diseases and protect us. And we don't eat enough of those foods. So when I'm starting to talk about what I want to start focusing on more is just sharing some of the little tiny things that we can do, just start to change these things, implement them, make them the norm, and make it a slow process of change so that it becomes sustainable, so we can start getting back to just the real simple, easy, everyday ways that we used to eat that make us and our kids really strong and healthy. That's so much my heart, is just to start changing things for our kids' future. The culture change around food will have to start with us teaching our kids how to eat well. I grew up eating margarine, because our parents were told that margarine was awesome, and now we know margarine's terrible. So, we've got to just start changing the culture on the thing. I will never give my kids margarine because of what I now know about it. We've got to start with our kids. It's really important. Okay, so let's get into it. If you're jumping on, you feel free to say hi. You can ask questions as we go through these. So, okay, 3 super easy things that we can change tomorrow. You could honestly do this all tomorrow. Probably won't cost you anything more than what you currently are using for these things right now. So the first one is, I want to talk about salt. So table salt. If you're using table salt, please replace it with something else. So table salt is one of those things that modern, I don't know, like science and technology got involved in. Salt itself is really important to our body because we need it to make electrolytes. We need it for energy. Table salt is salt. Salt is amazing for us because it has a ton of trace essential minerals in it. It actually has about 84. What table salt is salt that has been refined and refined and processed until it's bleached and it's got nothing left in it, and it's basically sodium chloride. When we eat too much sodium, it throws our whole body out. It starts to give us, it's heart palpitations and high blood pressure. It's linked to heart attacks, strokes, all sorts of terrible stuff. That's what table salt is. They also put in other additives so that it doesn't get all gluggy and we can shake it out all nice. So there's additives in there as well. Iodized salt came about because they started to find that people were getting goiters, right? So they put iodine into salt. So they kind of, with table salt, they're kind of selling the poison and the cure. They took all of the minerals out and then went, oh crap, there's no minerals in it. So then they put iodine back into it. But salt itself actually has iodine in it in a form that our body can assimilate a lot better, as well as 83 other trace essential minerals. So if you are using table salt in your home, please remove it and replace it with something else. So a better option is sea salt or Celtic sea salt or Himalayan pink salt. Celtic sea salt is the best you can get, and then second to that is Himalayan salt. Himalayan salt is a little bit cheaper, but if you can get Celtic sea salt, then that is definitely the best one to get. It's got all of the essential minerals in there intact. They're really high sources of iron, excellent for your body, for your electrolytes, because we do need salt for our body to be able to operate properly and optimally. And if you're ever interested in finding out how important salt is to us, look up a drink called Sole, S-O-L-E. That is really fascinating. That is actually a really great health tonic for people to have if you've never heard of it before. Shows how important salt is for us. So yeah, that's something you can change tomorrow, definitely, to improve your family's health. Okay, Nathan. Soils must have minerals. Intensive farming causes mineral depletion. Yes, especially magnesium. A body without minerals cannot utilize vitamins equals disease. Perfect and spot on, Nathan. That's exactly right. And this is one of the things that happens so much in the way that we eat modern foods. It's been processed to the point where there's actually nothing left in it. And that's the foods that we're eating. So we might even think that we're eating healthy, but what we're actually eating is something that's been depleted because of the way that it's been processed. So again, we're just going back to getting eating things in as raw, minimally processed as possible. That's what we want to go back to. Okay, my next one is all about sugar. So I'm not going to say that you should eliminate sugar, because I know that for some people that's really hard. So I'm not going to say that. What I am going to say is that what you can start to do is reduce the amount of sugar that you're using in things. So if you're baking, reduce the amount of sugar and substitute some of that sugar with something else that's got a natural sugar in it. So you might use really ripe bananas and mash them up. I use that all the time. I actually don't think I even have sugar in my pantry. I have been cooking without sugar for so long, I'm not even sure if I have it anymore. Actually, when people come over and they have a coffee and they say, hey, have you got sugar? I always go, ooh, I don't know if I have sugar because I don't need it anymore. So there are lots of alternatives. So mashed banana is a great one when they're really ripe and black. I chop mine up, like I mash mine up and I freeze it in little bags as well, and then just get it out when I need it. Apple sauce, if you buy it in jars or whatever, you've got to be careful because they do have some garbage in them. Or otherwise you can just steam some apples and puree them. Date paste is another one. You just soak some dates for a little while in warm water and then just blend it up. That makes a great alternative. And because they're natural sugars, our body can use it much more readily, and it doesn't give you the massive blood sugar spikes, highs and lows that we get from sugar. Sugar is something that I think we tend to go, especially when it comes to making stuff for kids, like if we're making their muffins for school or whatever, we tend to go, oh, they're kids, they love sugar, they'll be fine, they're kids, every kid eats sugar. The problem with sugar is that not only is it addictive, like it actually changes our brain the same way that cocaine does. Not only is it addictive, but it's actually it's an anti-nutrient. So it leaches nutrients and minerals from our body. And that's what we're giving to our kids every time we give them muffins with all these different, you know, mass amounts of sugar in them. And then we say, go to school and be really, you know, be good, don't misbehave, even though we've just given you this thing that changes and alters your mood and makes you unable to concentrate, and is actually leaching essential things from your body. So that's what we're doing when we're giving our kids sugar. So the more we can reduce that by substituting in better forms of sugar, natural sugars, is better. And another thing you can do even is to use things like spices, like use cinnamon. So if you're making banana bread, cut down the amount of sugar, add in an extra banana or two, put in more cinnamon, put in some ginger and nutmeg, or allspice, or, you know, cloves, or maybe, I don't know if that goes with banana bread. Put in some more vanilla essence or extract. Please don't use imitation vanilla. That is literally sugar water. But, you know, there's so many things you can do to add in more flavour and not actually have to have that quantity of sugar. So there's ways that you can start to just reduce. And yes, you might have to do a bit of experimenting, just with the quantities of different things will change, but do it a couple of times and you'll get it. So that's a really great, easy way to start reducing the amount of sugar that you use when you're cooking as well. So that's number 2. Hi, everybody. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Melly. Melly and Kelly both jumped on at the same time. That's so funny. Hi, guys. Feel free to ask questions and stuff too if you want to. All right, I'm up to my 3rd one. So far, if you just jumped on, I was just talking about changing a few little things. So my first one that I mentioned very, very quickly was salt. So if you're using table salt, don't use table salt. Change to a Celtic sea salt or a pink Himalayan salt. And I forgot to say, actually, a good thing is to go to your health food store and just buy a bag of bulk salt. That's what we do. And I probably spend, it's probably like $7 for a bag, and I swear a bag will last us a year. Like, I can't even remember the last time I bought salt. So it's not expensive to switch to a better salt than table salt. And just mentioned sugar then. Let's start reducing the amount of sugar. That's a really great way to just start heading towards being healthier families. Kelly, are there any artificial sweeteners you think are okay? For example, stevia or those ones called natural? I'm actually going to do a whole thing on sweeteners because I get a little bit confused about them all. I get like maltodextrin or something and xylitol and all those. I get them mixed up in my head. At the moment, I don't use any artificial sweeteners at all. I did used to use a stevia, but it was a stevia mixed with something else, and I think that that's not okay, so I stopped using it. I need to do a lot of research into it, Kelly, so I haven't worked that out yet. I only, at the moment, just use sweeteners like rice malt syrup, raw honey, and like a maple syrup, not maple flavoured syrup. Again, that is just sugar syrup. But I will figure that out, Kelly, and I will let you know when I'm going to do it because I'm not 100% sure what are the good sweeteners and what aren't yet. So I'm still going through all of that. But great question, and I will definitely do a live on that. All right, my very last one that I want to talk about, this is the one that I think is really, really important because I found this out a few years ago, and when I found out, it was one of those like mind-blowing moments where I went, oh my gosh, I've been feeding my kids carcinogens every day, because what I didn't know is that different oils that we use when we cook turn carcinogenic when they reach a certain heat point. So oils have different levels of stability. It kind of depends on how refined they are. So like, you know, we have extra virgin olive oil. So how virgin it is how refined it is. So the more raw it is, the lower its smoke point, and the more refined it is, the higher its smoke point. But the more refined it is, the less good for us it is as well. So every oil has a smoke point, and that's the point at which it starts to degrade, and the structure of it changes, and it creates free radicals. And free radicals in our body are one of the big dominoes that lead to cancers and degenerative diseases and chronic illnesses. So they're part of that effect. So when we are using the wrong oil to cook and it's getting to a heat temperature where it is changing the structure of the oil, then we are actually just feeding ourselves carcinogenic food, you know, when we're having our dinner. So there is a little bit of controversy. I haven't quite totally 100% worked out whether extra virgin olive oil is okay to cook with or not. Both camps are very yes and no. So I've just generally avoided it because there's so many other options that you don't need to. Like, save your extra virgin olive oil for your salads. and, you know, other things like that, but you don't necessarily need it to cook with. So the best oils to do for high temperature cooking, I'm talking like medium, high, and high, like if you were making a stir fry, you were cooking meat. Actually, if you're cooking meat, I'm not a huge meat cooker, but I think you're supposed to use a really high heat. There's only one type that I would probably use for that. But mainly the best ones with the highest smoke points are coconut oil. So coconut oil can sometimes flavor food. I've found different brands have a different taste. Some of them have a really strong taste and can flavor what you're cooking. So you can try different brands. The great thing is that coconut oil is everywhere now. You can buy it from Woolies and stuff. It's so easy to get, and it comes in little jars, so you can try different brands. But I've definitely had brands that I've tried and just gone, oh my gosh, that makes everything taste like coconut. But if I'm making something Thai flavored, for sure, I think it's great for cooking eggs as well. I don't notice the flavor so much with the brand that I've got now. I don't have it here, but if you want to know, just put in the comments if you want to know brands of stuff that I use. I don't think I've been mentioning them, so I can write them in later. But yeah, coconut oil is great, has a great high smoke point. Used for certain things, it's great. Don't use it for cooking on really high heat though, unless you're using a super refined one, which I wouldn't recommend that you do. So just, you know, medium high is great for that. The next one is ghee. Ghee is not an oil, it's a butter, it's clarified butter. So the ghee, there we go. Kelly just said she's going to try to make ghee. Ghee is awesome. So ghee is clarified butter. So it's grass-fed butter with the milk solids and the buttermilk taken out. So it's great for people with dairy sensitivities because they can still have it. So our son, who can't have dairy because it makes him all gunky and snotty, he can still have ghee and he's fine because it doesn't have the lactose and the casein in it that affects people. It also has a really high smoke point. It's higher than coconut oil. So it's great for things like making pancakes and fritters and, you know, if you're cooking something like a mushroom sauce or something like that where you would have onions and mushrooms and a bit of butter. So ghee is awesome for that. It's great. And yes, as Kelly said, you can make it. It is super easy to make. It is literally just putting it in a cloth and letting stuff drip out. So yeah, ghee is super easy to make and really, really good for you. It's great for your gut. It's actually one of the best things you can have for gut health as well. So get on the ghee. And the next one is rice bran oil. If you buy cold pressed rice bran oil, really, really easy to find everywhere. It's really inexpensive. I think I buy a brand called, I think it's called Alpha One. I'm not really sure. I should have got my brands out. You can just get it from Woolies. It has a really high smoke point. Again, a really minimal flavor. Like you can barely taste it in anything. I've been using that for years. Just make sure that you get a cold pressed one. You don't want to get a really highly refined rice bran oil. That's a great all-rounder oil. Okay, if you are going to be cooking on super high heats, your best oil for that is avocado oil. That's another good all-rounder. But if you're doing something like searing steak or something, I don't know, I don't cook meat very much, but and you have to have it on a really high heat, the only one that is recommended is avocado oil. It is a little more pricey. I personally don't use it because I don't need to cook anything on a super, super high heat, but it's really high in vitamin E. Actually, rice bran oil is high in vitamin E as well, but avocado oil also has omega-9 fatty acids in it, which is great. Just again, buy a reasonably unrefined one. I don't know the taste of that one, but it does have a little bit of a higher price tag than other oils. So basically, to summarize, keep your extra virgin olive oil for salads and use those other oils that I just mentioned. So coconut oil, ghee, which is not an oil, but it's butter, rice bran oil and avocado oils are the oils and butters that you should be using for cooking so that you're not releasing carcinogens. Actually, did you know that when you're, okay, so let me tell you this. When you heat oil up, you know, you can kind of see it shimmering. When it gets to the point where it's kind of just a little bit beyond shimmering and starting to get a little smoky, that's the point where you are definitely in carcinogen zone. So if that happens, take it off the heat, get lots of paper towels, wipe it all up, get rid of it, clean it out, and start again with a different oil or a much lower heat. That's the point where you can tell that your oil is starting to go rancid, and even the fumes from that are really toxic. So try not to breathe it in. You are breathing in carcinogens. That's how bad it is. And it's something that I think is just not really known enough. Okay, so to recap, that's the 3 things that you can do. Switch out your table salt to Celtic sea salt or Himalayan salt. really readily available now, really easy to do, and much, much better for you than table salt, which will flood your body with far too much sodium and nothing else. You know, start cutting down the amount of sugar when you're baking, things like that. Substitute it with natural sugar, fruits like bananas, dates, things like that, or use spices as well to increase the flavor and decrease the amount of sugar, so that we're not giving our kids an addictive substance that's an anti-nutrient and leaching good stuff from our body. And the last one is just check the oils that you're using, and stay away from using low smoke point oils and stick to those high smoke point oils, so that we're keeping our families safe from carcinogens. So if you want any of that information, I have it all in a document that I'm happy to send out. Just send me a PM or chuck a comment in here, and I'm happy to send it out to you. I'm always happy to answer questions. You can just send through anything at all. I might have some info that I can help you with, and I'm always happy to do that. But that's it from me for now. Thanks everyone for jumping on, and I will see you next week. Bye.